Hello there, my friend, and welcome to the Ayurveda and Psychology podcast. I am Charlotte Skogsberg, your host for this podcast. I am enchanted to meet and to take you with me on this journey into the human psyche, viewed from the holistic approach of yoga and Ayurveda, and viewed from the modern man approach of clinical psychology and psychoanalysis. So have something nice to drink next to you, maybe a cup of tea, have a seat, or go out for a nice walk in nature maybe. Enjoy. In today's episode, we are focusing yet again on Ayurveda. And you will see quite specifically in this episode just how much it flows into the realm of psychology as well. Because today I want to talk more specifically on why we get out of balance. So as I introduced Ayurveda and also as I spoke a little bit about some of the tendencies that we have, you have heard me saying imbalance and getting out of balance and coming back to balance quite a few times. And to a certain extent, I think that we all can see what these imbalances look like. And I have also said that, as soon as we begin to move, basically our doshas begin to move as well. And the external environment shifts. And so we easily get out of balance. Right? But why do we get out of balance? So not only would we be able, just like any other organism on this planet, like an animal, to quickly adapt into the environment in order to bring ourselves back to balance. For instance, the idea of the cold countries when in winter and it's snowing, a big part of the population of animals hibernate, right? So that is one very obvious proof of adapting to the external environment in order to go back into balance. We would imagine that as human beings, that's exactly what we would do as well in order to not stay in this imbalanced state. Yet we don't. And actually, any disease existing in the world today is just the absolute proof that we do not bring ourselves back from balance so fast, because the disease comes when the imbalance stays on with us and then aggravates more and more. So, why is this? It is because we have come to a very distorted idea, which is that we are not actually perfect the way we are. We have this distorted idea that we need to use external things in order to stay in balance, or in order to feel good, if you will. In a certain way, the same way that we have come to understand that we need to fill up with food in order to regain energy, which is of course true in itself. But not only, actually, we refill ourselves on energy through all our senses, and also, of course, very much in sleeping, for instance, and through all the elements. Now, we have come to this idea that if there is something that is not right with us, then it's not so much a symptom of an imbalance that we need to tend to, as it is that there's something wrong with us. And when there's something wrong with us, we have the impression that we are not whole, that we are not perfect, and so we need something in order to bring ourselves back to that idea of wholeness or perfection or balance. So obviously, some of the very typical examples are having a headache, for instance, or feeling tired, feeling heavy, feeling dull, having even a fever, or finding it hard to relax. So these are some of the most common symptoms that we have in the world today. And they are symptoms that most probably thousands of years ago did not even exist within the human race. And it's not because we have become deficient. It is because the external environment has changed. So take something as simple as a headache, which is so dismissed quickly as nothing. Because for some people, it's actually almost like a daily thing. I myself remember years ago, in a different lifetime, regularly having headaches. I would even have the habit of popping an ibuprofen, more or less every day. I would even take one if it wasn't really a headache that I was feeling, but just like a dullness, because it was an anti-inflammatory. And so somewhere in this distortion of my mind, it basically meant that, oh, if I'm not feeling well, maybe there's some kind of inflammation going on in my body, I will take an ibuprofen and it will take the inflammation away. It will cure it. And it couldn't be further from the truth, actually. But without talking about ibuprofen, when we have a headache and we take a pill, what actually happens? Once again, we have the distorted idea that it will heal the headache. But actually, it does not at all heal the headache. What it does is that it blocks the signal that sends to the brain the information of the reason, the cause of the headache, so that we feel pain. Pain is something very important for us. If we couldn't feel pain, actually there's children born with a specific disease where you don't feel pain. And they are living a very dangerous life because pain is something that tells us, it's a message that something is wrong and needed to be tended to. So if we take something that just takes away the signal to the brain that there's a pain, then all we actually do is to kill the messenger. The reason for the headache is still present. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some cases where this is really beneficial for us. Let's say, for instance, that you are severely ill, that you have the flu, that you have some kind of sickness that is making you very weak and that you're experiencing different kinds of pains, for instance, headaches or others, and it actually keeps you from sleeping. And because it keeps you from sleeping, it's making it harder for your organism to recover, because obviously the more we sleep, the easier it becomes for the organism to recover. So in these moments, taking something that will make us not know actually the pain, so that we actually sleep, can be beneficial. But that is, of course, not what I'm talking about when I'm talking about our daily habits of popping a pill when there's some kind of pain. Now, when we take a pill instead, we are not tending to the core cause, reason for our headache, which means that unless we actually then do something about it, we may aggravate the state, like for instance, dehydration. What happens if we don't actually tend to the dehydration? Or let's say that it's the fact of lack of sleep. Now, most of you, I'm sure, can recognize that both of these two causes happens regularly when we are in that stage of life where we go out to parties regularly. So going out on a Friday night, waking up on the Saturday morning with a headache just seems like a very normal thing. So we pop a pill and then the day can go on. But what happens is we are completely dehydrated, of course, due to the alcohol that we've been drinking. and whatever else we've been doing. And also lack of sleep, because we might not have gone to bed before 10 p.m., which means that we might not have gotten at all those nice and deep hours of sleep that we need in order to restore. And so little by little, over the weeks and over the years of having these habits, what we do is that we aggravate our state. And in the beginning, the lack of sleep and the dehydration might not show up in a severe disease, but over years of accumulation, if we keep on living this way, which a lot of people do, we will become severely ill. Tiredness in itself is one of the most common thing amongst everyone, and it is so common that we have developed this trend since many years, of course, but even more so, let's say, the past 5 to 10 years, since, Starbucks and things like that opened up, of a whole subculture linked to tiredness, actually, because directly addicted to caffeine. So the whole hashtag first coffee has become a subculture, really. So we love coffee. We're addicted to it because it, might not actually taste so good the first times when we drink it. Just like other toxins, I'm not going to say the coffee is a toxin, but just like some of the toxins and alcohol and things like that actually don't taste very well. But because we've been indoctrinated through advertising as well, we make ourselves believe that we enjoy it. And then over time, we actually get habituated to it. And then we start to, let's say, enjoy it. And we get very addicted to the effects that it brings to us, which is the case for coffee. We get addicted to the state that we get into when we drink coffee, which is why when we don't drink coffee, we also feel the severage, which means, the symptoms of severage at least, unless we then fill up again on coffee, which is tiredness, dullness, headaches, of course, nausea. There's plenty of symptoms that comes when we don't get our daily dose. So tiredness is something that is just commonly known as normal. But of course, feeling tired is not normal. It is just like the headache. It is a signal that something is missing. It is a pain, if you will, telling us we need to tend to it, which we rarely do. Now, why don't we do this? And there's so many reasons, I can't even go into all of them today, but let's just look into the way the world is structured today when it comes to society that we are used to. I was going to say in the West there, but actually everywhere in the world. And I would even say that in the East, depending on where you are, probably much worse, actually. Places like Shanghai and Hong Kong, Dubai, Singapore, Beijing comes to mind, where basically people don't sleep at all. So we have, first of all, installed this rhythm of when to do certain things that is not actually really linked to our biorhythm, but more linked to consumerism and productivity, right? We have then also become accustomed to living in these environments that are not at all our natural habitat and that are actually also playing on our mood and therefore are on our capacity to sleep well. Ever since electricity came into our lives, we have also been able to manipulate when and not to be awake. Because of course, the old Neanderthals, or even way later than that, of course, but when it was dark, there was nothing you could do. The things that you needed to tend to, you could only do them when the sun was up, because that's when you could see. We are not animals with night vision, like the feline, which is why at night we rest. But of course, with electricity that has completely changed. We can do anything we want, anytime we want. There are, gyms that are open 24/7, for instance, so that those who work too much can go for the treadmill at midnight, or those who are stressed about whatever, who wake up at 3, like many of us do, can go for another round on the treadmill at 4 a.m. if they wish to, before going to work. And all of that can seem so free and liberated and, I work best this way. But actually, you know what? It's not true. Because there's a reason that we function with nature. There's a reason that we restore better our bodies when the sun is not present. And that is because actually we need to sleep when it is dark. Our difficulties with winding down, it's the same thing there. That's a reason that we can't relax. Is not normal. It is like the pain of any other. It is a symptom that we are not tending to something specifically, so we are constantly on this fight or flight mode. Yet, we pretend that it means that there's just something wrong with us, and so we find other ways of relaxing by taking some kind of medication very often, and it's become so normal to just take a Xanax or, if I think about back in the 90s, a Valium was probably just as common as taking a painkiller for the head. Alcohol, of course, and other kinds of toxins that we use in order to calm down. And it's the same thing there. What happens is that we are just blocking signals, we're pushing ourselves into a state, and then we will feel, we think, more relaxed. But we're not feeling more relaxed naturally, which means that the cause of this unease inside of us is still present. And once again, over the weeks, over the years, over time, it keeps going and we aggravate our state. So we are taking ourselves away from a state that is ease simply because we have gotten so far from the idea that by just doing what's natural, we will actually feel ease. It's like being ill. If we don't go and see the doctor, it's just going to get worse, we think. But actually, we did survive before there were medical doctors. So somehow, apparently, our organism would find a way to restore itself again. If we have a fever, actually, that is the body's way of fighting the disease inside of us. So if instead of popping a pill to take away the fever, we allow for it to be, but we stop everything else, we let the whole organism rest so that it can do its job to fight the virus inside of us, the bacteria inside of us, then naturally it will go away. Now, of course, I'm not saying here that the medical solutions that have, inventions are not good or anything like that, that we should, step away from that. I'm not asking you to do that. But you would not be maybe so much in the need of it if you would learn from the beginning to read the signals and to tend to them before they actually manifest even in their physical form. There's another thing that I find is probably the root cause even of why we pop the pills or drink the coffee, the alcohol and all of that. And that is this idea that who we are when we are not being productive is not enough. And that is one whole big part of our imbalances as well. So the reason we become imbalanced is also because just by being ourselves, we believe that there's something missing, that there's a lack. And this is where also it brings me on to the realm of psychology that I was mentioning when I started out this chat today. And it becomes this idea that human beings are not organisms living organically, but more like machines that are supposed to be working a certain way, doing certain things, functioning in a specific way, and also all the time. So, for instance, if you would just look into all these stuff that exists to make women work normally, let's say, during pregnancy or just as simple as during menstruation, we don't actually need that. It is actually a time when we're supposed to slow down a little bit, when we're supposed to let our bodies do its job, which means that we function with cycles. But that doesn't work for consumerism, that doesn't work for the productivity. And so we have found ways to kind of shortcut that so that we could still just keep moving. Pharmaceuticals in general have also done this, of course, for our mental states. When in time did it become the norm that if you're expressing symptoms of imbalance mentally, it means that there's something wrong with you? There's nothing wrong with you. There is a cause for the mental imbalance that can be explained. So basically, just popping a pill of an antidepressant when you are feeling unhappy, when you are sad, ultimately is not the solution, but that's what we've become. Isn't that interesting that society turns and point the finger towards ourselves when there's something that we can't deal with in our, contextual situation, instead of actually looking at the situation and going, maybe this is not good for me. No, you're depressed instead. So take this pill of something and you will feel better. Well, I wasn't born depressed, so obviously something happened for me to become depressed. And this is also one of the reasons that me personally, I'm just going to swap back into that psychology world a little bit. But this is also why some of these modern ways of looking at therapy really doesn't sit well with me. These ideas that there's a very simple solution to a lot of our issues, and that we can make these categories of, oh, you have this, you go into that box, and then we treat that this way, and then now you're treated, so it means that now you're good again to go. But we don't function that way, because actually the reason that we're not feeling well is completely unique to each person, which means that once again, whatever solutions we find are just like those pills for the headache. And I can say this because you can actually look into research today where you see that the different kinds of therapies that's been developed in the more behavioral realm, so the cognitive therapies, well, they usually have an issue with relapse in a way that, for instance, psychoanalysis or the talking cure or a long-term follow with someone who's going through some traumatic experience or reliving it, I should say, maybe, even if it's not happening right now, that you don't find this kind of relapse in those situations. So yes, it takes longer. It might even then, because it takes longer, cost more, but it functions, it works. So why have we chosen to go with the other options today? Well, because for society, it's easier. Because we can label it, we can put it into a box, and we don't have to look into the uniqueness of each and one of us. And that makes it cheaper. And then we can just give them a pill of some kind and that will work. You're depressed, take this pill, you will feel better. Call me in a week, and then, in a week you're feeling better? Great. Now what happens in a year time, that I don't know, but you're not my problem anymore. So these are the reasons that we get out of balance. And I would just simply like to tie the knot of the end of this, to round it up, to sum it up with, we have disconnected from what it is to actually be a human. We have disconnected from our natural habitat completely. We're actually scared very often of nature. And we have become these machines instead that we press an on button for, and if it doesn't start quick enough, we have found remedies to make it start faster. If it doesn't stop fast enough, we have found other remedies to make it stop faster as well. It's on and off, and in between, we need to produce. The way out of this is awareness. Stepping out of this means looking at, who am I? What are my tendencies? What am I noticing that is bringing me away from ease into disease? What am I feeling that does not make me feel good? And instead of finding something to stop that sensation, it is a question of getting to know where it's coming from. We do that through Ayurveda, and actually that's exactly what we do in the therapeutical room as well. But we need to have the patience to let it take the time that it takes. Because actually there's no quick fix. Since the quick fixes aren't quick anyway, if you look a year after or whatever. Thank you for listening to me today. Thank you so much for choosing to listen to this podcast and this episode. I am very grateful. If you enjoyed this and you think that other people could enjoy this, please help me to spread the word. Share this episode on any channel that you have of social media or messaging. And even more so, I would really appreciate if you know one other person who might benefit from my words today specifically. Take that 1 minute it takes to simply share this episode with one person. Remember that there's a human being on the other side of your phone, of your earpods, of this microphone. And I would love to hear your thoughts on what I've been talking about. So please leave a comment. Send me a message directly if you wish. This is Charlotte. This is me. See you next time. Namaste.